Okay, so what is up guys? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I want to talk to you about the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 and whether you should actually still buy this phone in 2021. Now, the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 has pretty much the exact same design as the Galaxy Note 9. The only real difference from what I noticed or using both phones is that the fingerprint sensor that's in this awkward position to the left is now moved to the center on the Note 9, but I don't think this is too bad. I mean, it can get uncomfortable sometimes, especially if you're a left-handed person, but over time you get used to it and that just kind of goes away. Now, speaking about the display of the Samsung Galaxy Note 8, this is a 6.8-inch Quad HD display that looks absolutely gorgeous. Using this device makes me feel like all my iPhones have terrible displays, which is crazy to think about because, this is a phone that actually cost me just right around $260 to actually purchase, while my latest iPhone that costs close to $1,000 did not have a screen as good as this phone that was announced in 2017. Now, speaking about the specs for this phone, this unit that I have here has got 6 GB of RAM and it has the Snapdragon 835 processor. Also, it's got the Adreno 540 GPU. And as far as day-to-day performance goes, using this device to multitask, because I can actually multitask properly with this device in split screen, I had no issues watching videos, editing videos, watching YouTube, Netflix. When it comes to content consumption, the quality of the screen on this phone makes it absolutely fantastic. But of course, if you're doing too many things at the same time, you probably expect your phone to lag a little bit. But I can tell you categorically that this phone from 2017 had no such issues and it worked like a charm. I didn't experience any lags, I didn't experience any hiccups. In fact, the animations that actually, follow through on applications like Twitter, when you leave like maybe fleets and you go back to your timeline and stuff, they're a lot smoother on this than they are on my iPhone. All I can say is I really like the display of this phone and I really like the way that the performance ties into the display and everything. Now, of course, you get the option to vary or change the quality of the display that you're using. Currently I have it at Quad HD, but you can decide to switch that and just completely use the device in like, I don't know, 2K or 1080p. And while that might save you some battery, at the end of the day, it just doesn't look as gorgeous as it's supposed to. And that might be a problem for some people. Since you're buying a phone like this, one of the reasons why you're buying it is to be able to enjoy the quality of the screen. This has dual 12 megapixel cameras. The main shooter is a 12 megapixel f1.7 26mm wide, and the second shooter is a 52mm wide f2.4 telephoto lens. Now, how do I feel about the actual performance of the cameras on this phone? They work very, very decent. But again, I would always point out that this is an Android phone's camera, and Android cameras are just always going to be inferior to the iPhone, except we're talking pixel, and even then, the iPhone is still going to be superior at taking videos. Taking photos with this was fine. I could get really, really decent photos when there was a lot of light, when I was outside, when I was shooting in controlled environments like this. If I take photos, they look great. But when it gets a little dark, the pictures kind of fall apart and then they become almost useless because they are very grainy. The part where I don't really like these cameras though is going to have to be in the video department, because yes, while this camera can shoot 4K 30 frames per second and 2K and 1080p and slow-mo video, the quality that the video puts out looks fine on your screen, but the moment you upload it to the internet, it looks terrible. It just completely falls apart. And you've probably heard this thing about Samsung phones and using them for Snapchat and Instagram. They just don't work together very well. And if most of your consumption or your content creation is mostly going to be for social media, then you're probably better off just buying an iPhone. Now, realistically speaking though, the cameras for the price that I paid for this phone, since it's 2021 now, the cameras perform very, very decently. In fact, above decently, and it's still better than what you get from some mid-range phones that you pay it's definitely better. What am I talking about? At $250, what phone can you buy that's going to have a better camera than the Samsung Galaxy Note 8, right? I mean, there are phones that you pay more money for and they still won't perform as well as the cameras on this phone. Now, another thing that I like to talk about with this throwback videos about phone reviews is going to have to be the speakers of the phone. How have they held up over time and how do they sound now? Unfortunately, this phone does not have dual speakers, like the newer Samsung Galaxy Notes, where you have the speaker shooting from the top and the bottom. This one does not. It has a single firing speaker at the bottom that's really teeny, really bad, and not very fun to use. It doesn't sound good. In fact, I can go play something on Apple Music right now for you to hear so that you can actually hear how bad this speaker is. Just give me a second. You hear that? Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. In fact, I cannot recommend this phone if what you're looking for is the best speaker on the market. But at the same time, for that price, this is actually probably fine. Now, of course, this one has a Gorilla Glass 5 on the front and Gorilla Glass 5 at the back, and this is very, very fragile because glass is glass and glass will break. It's not going to be as durable as a completely metal phone or a plastic phone, and it's going to be very easy to crack this phone, and when you crack it once, it's probably just going to continue to spread. That's the reality with Samsung phones that have this glass front, glass back kind of design. But the good thing about this is because of the glass back, you can actually wirelessly charge this phone. It supports quick charge 2.0 in wireless charging mode, which is fantastic. I get to use that in my car because I have a wireless charging pad on my dash, and I also get to use this in the office as well, so it's really, really convenient. When I'm not in a situation when I can just, plug in with the USB-C port, I get to use that, and that is really convenient for me. Another thing to note about the Galaxy Note 8 is, unlike most new phones these days, this particular one actually still keeps the headphone jack. Samsung is the only company that kept the headphone jack for as long as they did. Everybody else had already switched over to using Bluetooth audio, but Samsung tried to help us maximize this, and even though they still make the phone very, very compatible with Bluetooth audio with Dolby Atmos, they actually have a Dolby, where is it? Yes, they actually have a Dolby Atmos setting that you can use when you're listening to music. They still give you the headphone jack, and you can get the best performance out of that, especially if you're trying to, listen to high fidelity audio on like Tidal, and you have like special headphones that you use for music consumption. This would be a fantastic phone to buy on a budget if you're not trying to spend a lot more for another phone, or you don't want to be going around with a dongle. This is fantastic. Now, moving on to the physical bits of the phone, there's a button on this side that actually activates Bixby. So it was kind of annoying because I couldn't switch that over to Google Assistant. But then over time, since this one actually launched with Android 7.0 and it's now on Android 9.0, Samsung has pretty much given you the option to actually move the Bixby to holding it down for a specific number of seconds, and you can use a single tap to launch a completely different app. And what I've used mine to do is basically launch the BlackBerry Inbox hub, where I have all my notifications and everything. As you probably know, I am a BlackBerry fanboy, and nothing beats BlackBerry Hub when it comes to productivity for me, so I just use that instead. I could have probably set that to Google Assistant, but I could just tell my phone, okay Google, and that happens. So I don't really need to waste my time with trying to... Google is writing down what I'm saying. Let me cancel that quickly. It's so funny. But anyway, since I can already use OK Google on my phone, I don't actually need to program that into a button. So I just put my productivity BlackBerry Inbox onto the button, and that's that for that. I never use Bixby. I never have to think about Bixby. I never have to worry about Bixby, so that's perfect for me. So speaking about the battery life of the phone, the phone comes equipped with a 300 milliamps per hour battery, which when you think about it with the size of the screen and the quality of the screen, that's not so great. So I think over time it even gets worse because battery capacities would deteriorate after a few years or after a year or something. So naturally, as you can expect, the battery on this phone dies out quite a bit, especially when you're using the phone a lot, constantly texting, constantly chatting, constantly using Netflix and stuff, or maybe you're even multitasking everything at the same time. Your battery is not going to last very long. But realistically though, the battery is still really good for a screen this size and a phone this size. I actually really appreciate how the phone performs when it comes to the battery life. I just wish it was a little better. But if you're not constantly having power issues, you own a power bank or something, this would probably not be a problem for you, especially with the convenience of wirelessly charging your phone. It's super. The second to the last thing that I'd like to talk about with this phone is going to have to be the biometrics and how to actually unlock your phone and stuff. In my case, I'm using a pattern, I'm using Face ID, and I'm using the fingerprint sensor on the back all at the same time. And the reason why I do that is because the Face ID on this, on like iPhones, is not very reliable and it doesn't work as well. I mean, I could be waiting for the phone to recognize my face for seconds and it just doesn't, so I have to just use my fingerprint sensor in a case like that. And sometimes, oddly enough, it actually works pretty well. The moment I pick up my phone, it unlocks and I'm good. So it's kind of hit and miss there, so I wouldn't say depend on the Face ID or the face unlock feature on this phone, but you also get the fingerprint sensor and you also get the patterns and the unlock codes and stuff, so that's actually really cool. Now that we've come to the end of this video, I just want to say, for what I paid for this phone, this is probably the best value, best affordable Android phone to buy on the market right now. $250 for this seems insane to me. It seems absurd, it seems unbelievable, it seems unthinkable. In fact, I am not sure why the price of this phone depreciated as much as it does, but the reality is with Android phones, the prices depreciate very quickly, because if I was trying to buy an iPhone from 2017, which is in this case the iPhone 10, I'm not gonna get it for $250. I'll probably get it for around $350, but when you compare that to depreciation over time, this depreciated much faster because it was more expensive than the iPhone 10 at the time. So that was pretty much all my thoughts about this phone. In 2021, the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 is a perfect phone to buy if you're on a tight budget and you're trying to get flagship specs on a budget without having to settle for a slower Snapdragon chip or an Exynos chip or something else that other companies might offer at that price point. You're probably going to be looking at really budget phones at $250, but with this, you actually get a flagship feeling phone, a phone that actually feels premium. The only difference is it's from 2017 and you're kind of stuck on Android 9.0 as the most that you can get. Anyways, that was pretty much all my thoughts about the Galaxy Note 8 for today if you're trying to buy this phone. Thank you so much for watching, and I guess I will see you on another video that was shot by Kagan. Peace. The Khan of Gods!